All right, what's happening, Mr. Steven? Basic, have to have you as a co-host on the show today, brother.
Hey, we don't need no Mark Wille.
We don't need no Mark Wille. That's it. He's done. He's done
I
with
love Mark, but we don't need him.
Steve.
But hey, he's here in spirit. Look at that.
He is. Check it out. We got the T-stud.
And I got the official Mark Wille hat.
Oh, do you? Let me see. Is that the one with the? It's hard to see. Okay, with the beard, the purple beard.
There you go.
I love it.
One of a kind. So he's here in spirit.
So Mark is here in spirit. Unfortunately, Mark is at a meeting somewhere. We don't have the coordinates exactly of his location, but internet signal is not working out for him. And in good old-fashioned Mark way of doing things, he reached out to Stephen Basic, said, Stephen, I can't make the show. Can you join us today? And so Stephen's with us. And Stephen, it's good to have you on. We just spent a little bit of time in Switzerland. We had some fun over there. But today is not about us. Today is about the youth. Today is about moving the industry forward. How do we get young people to join the trades and be on our team? So,
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. I've had the opportunity to talk to a few of these guys and work with Matt Bloomquist. So looking forward to this chat.
Awesome. I am as well. All right, so why don't we hop into today's show? We only have about 25 minutes. Let's get through. We got plenty of teachers on that are doing shop class in different schools around the country. This is your opportunity to meet those out there that are making a difference and training the next generation of trades, men and women in our industry. And it is your opportunity to know who these teachers are. So when you're looking to hire some new people in your organization, now you have the contacts of the people that you can reach out to do that. And I think it's super cool. So we're going to start off with Mr. Matt Bloomquist first. What's up, Matt?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing
Matt,
great,
how are you,
man.
buddy?
Good. How you doing, Steve? Good seeing you guys.
Always a pleasure, bud.
Yes.
So, Matt, you are no stranger to the Dave Cooper live show by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, you've become a regular all of a sudden, but that's okay. Because to me, you're a rock star. Anybody that's out there working with the younger generation to take them to the next level needs all the spotlight in the world. So, Matt, with that said, Mark and you got together and you said, hey, why just me? Why don't we bring on the shop class world? Not even the shop class world. Why don't we bring on the shop class podcast folks as well? And that's what we're going to do today. So why don't we start off by bringing some of these fine other gentlemen in with us? We'll start off with Duke Lazowski. Welcome, Duke. And let me go up here to no other than Ron Russinger. Hey, Ron, thank you for joining us today. There's a slew.
All right.
I got to make sure I have everybody. I think that's what we got right now. All right. Matt, since you're on the show so often, Steve Basic and I are just going to sit back and watch you run with it. We're done. We're done.
All right.
So you guys go. You guys get into it, and then Steven, you're gonna start us off with the first questionings of what these guys do. But first, Matt, why don't you go ahead and introduce Duke, and then we'll introduce Ron next.
Sure. Well, Duke is East Strasburg, Pennsylvania. Make sure I do that right for you, Duke. Duke actually is down in the junior high level and is doing STEM teaching. And so meeting these people, Ron, once we get to Ron, he's actually one of the creators and hosts of the Shop Class podcast. Every Wednesday we get together, we hang out. Steve Basic's been on there with us. Mark Wille's been on there with us. We have guests all over, whether it's shop teachers, former students. We've had space engineer, NASA engineers, aerospace engineers. We've had people that have body shops and welding, you name it. If it comes into shop class, we cover it. Duke is one of our regulars. He's always on there. You look at him, he's our bouncer. So Duke, great guy, great teacher. So welcome, Duke.
Awesome. All right, cool.
How's it going?
Duke, going well. Duke, like we ask everybody in this show, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we will call your mother, your students, your grandparents, whomever, and get them on this show, and we'll get all the dirt. But guess what, Duke? You only have 1 minute, so cover it quick. Go for it.
I know. I got the Mark Wille starter kit going here too, and
That's right.
he told us he uses grape jelly in his beard, so I've been putting grape jelly on. No, if I'm from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, I teach middle school tech ed. We use hand tools, we use machines, CNC routers, laser engravers, robots, drones. But once we went remote, I was looking for ideas. It's tough to teach a hands-on class when you only have when you're running online. So I did have an Instagram account to promote the program, but I didn't really go on it during the quarantine. Silly me. Finally, when I went back on it, I saw these guys, the Shop Class Podcast. I jumped on one of their podcasts for ideas, and now I'm on there on a weekly basis. It's like hanging out with these guys virtually, not online. But that's where I was also introduced to the building sciences. I'm from the Poconos, and in the Poconos, traditionally, we put these houses up as fast as we can because we get people moving in from New York and New Jersey. And, Matt introduced me to the building sciences, and I've just been blown away and intrigued by this since I've been on.
So does that make you a Penguins fan or a Philadelphia Flyers fan?
No hockey. I wrestled growing up, so I missed hockey season.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's PA, right? PA is all about wrestling. So we'll cover that too in a little bit. All right, Matt. Now let's get an introduction to Ron Grossinger, and let's hear what you have to say about him. Keep it nice, Matt. I heard what you were saying offline. I don't think you want Ron to hear that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, he paid me to keep it nice. No worries. Yeah, so Ron Grossinger, him and Matthew Barbercheck, who was trying to jump on today, but he has some technical difficulties. They are actually the originators of the Shop Class Podcast, which started out traditionally as a more traditional podcast form, where right now we've just been posting things on YouTube. If you guys watch the BS and Beer Show, we kind of suit what they're doing as far as how we're set up. But Ron is pretty much our main host for the Shop Class Podcast. Me, Duke, and some other guys are kind of the supporting cast in the whole thing. But Ron is right next to New York City. He's in the city. He's in the thick of it, but he's on the Jersey side. So you Jersey New Yorkers, I'll let you guys take care of offending or not offending each other, whatever that beef is there with that. But yeah, Ron is really he's the creator. He's the one that got this whole thing started. Like I said, they started off as a podcast, and I was on their show when it was just the podcast. Like Duke said, COVID hit. We all had to get together, figure out what the heck we're going to do as shop teachers. And and we had an Instagram group message going with teachers across the nation and said, hey, Wednesday night, I'm jumping on. Whoever wants to talk, let's figure this out. And here we are today. So here's Ron.
How you doing? All right, Ron Grossinger. Yeah, but more importantly than not really about me. It's about connecting shop teachers. So the important thing is that what generally happens with teachers is that they kind of work in silos, right? So when you're working in a silo, you don't really get to connect with all the shop teachers. And we felt that was not really good for inspiration. And a lot of the kids, they work on inspiration, and the teachers need to connect. So we created the Shop Class Podcast, which originally was a podcast with Matt Barbercheck, and actually that was a teacher that we connected through Instagram. So Instagram's an amazing platform to connect creative people. But we extended that and we created the podcast. And the reason why was because we wanted to talk to all these shop teachers. So we interview people. So we got people in Michigan. We got people in California. We got a guy in Australia. We got people in Canada. We got people down south. And what they're doing is they're telling us, hey, this is what we're doing in our shop. And even though, let's say, for instance, in my situation, the town next door, they killed their shop class. And the town next door to that killed their shop class. But we still have it because we still have the old machines. Now, that's just luck. But without connection and inspiration, you're not going to grow. And if you're not growing, that program, it could close. So that was the whole point behind the Shop Class Podcast, is to share ideas and get people out of their silos from around the country.
Yeah, for sure. Steven, what's your thought on all this? I mean, here we got shop class teachers, and they're all connected. How much of an opportunity is this for us?
This is huge. And let me just say, shop class has a very extremely important place in my heart. So I'm sitting at my desk. You guys are going to love this. Wooden scale. Do you want to know the first time I used this scale? 1980 in my architectural shop class, right? Architectural drawing shop class with Alan Goodrich. We called him G. He was the teacher. And I still talk to him. And probably in about the next week or two, I'm going to go out and have dinner with him. So we're still in touch, and he was my shop class teacher back in 80 to 84. And it's the only scale I use, and I've been using it since then. But, I think shop class in some ways gets a bad rap. At least when I was back in the 80s, shop class is like, okay, if you're not smart enough to handle like legitimate math, you go do shop class, right? Go bang some wood, right, play with wire and stuff, which is just the wrong way to think about it. I think. I think shop class is there's a lot of life lessons that are involved in shop class that even the smartest, most intelligent kid in high school can benefit from shop class. I think our connection with the mechanical world is been losing ever since the electronic world. It's kind of inversely proportional to the electronic world. Everybody's getting good with iPads, iPhones, and all this crap, and they don't know how to use a hammer. And right. I think that, you guys, my first question to both of you would be, where do you think shop class is now? But more importantly, where do you think it should be in 2 years, right? Because where you want to be in 2 or 3 years starts with what you do today.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I could take that question. I would love to answer that. It's gone through many iterations. I'm a 90s kid, so they got rid of shop class. I didn't have it. I used to have to go down to the junkyard just to see what cars were made of. I was desperate to get down there. And the guy in the junkyard thought I was stealing stuff because I didn't buy anything. I just went there with my sketch pad, and I would just draw cars and parts. And but so a lot of these kids miss out on shop class, and that was because in the 90s it was more of like, if you're not going to college, then you go to shop class, and if you go to shop class, you're not that smart. And this is nonsense, complete nonsense, because MIT, the highest level of engineering college, their slogan is mind and hand. And I always say, you can't read how to ride a bicycle. It's absurd. So if you're going to be a surgeon, you probably should take shop class, because the robotics involved is important to learn. So as far as shop class now, we luckily had this new thing called STEM. And what that is an acronym. So it's science. I don't have to tell you guys, but basically, if anybody's listening, it's science, technology, engineering, and math. And what that does is kind of put all the AP kids together with what they call technology, which could be a shop class or a library that has a 3D printer. So what they're trying to do is to get the kids to start making stuff. That's the most important part. So luckily it had a resurgence of ideas, but the traditional shop class where you have a wood shop, a metal shop, you could do machining, these need to be here. They are the foundation. And you could add all these 3D printers and whatnot, and that's great, because you do need automation is a huge thing coming up. So I would say STEM sort of saved shop class, and I would say buildings and trades. I was isolated from that until I started talking to people on the shop class podcast. So I would say, build it better. These better energy efficient houses. That's probably bringing a lot to the shop class. And Discovery Channel with all these, build it shows, and not just Discovery Channel, but all these Monster Garage and whatnot. That gets people excited. In fact, I picked up a welder because of Monster Garage. I was watching Jesse James make cars. I was like, oh, I want to learn how to weld, So I think it's had a resurgence, but it's not quite there. And I would say the future is going to be entrepreneurship and manufacturing. So it's not just hand craftsmanship. How do you make it more efficient? And I would say this, it's interesting because the word engineering gets thrown around a lot. And the problem with the word engineering is if you say engineering to like my niece, she's going to say, ew, it's like she's seeing a bug. She's like, oh, math, it's so scary. I don't want to do anything. Engineering is not, math is just a tool in the arsenal. So, what engineering is a measurable benefit. So it's very creative. So you have a baseline of something that may or may not work, and then you make it work. And then that measurement, the difference, the gain of efficiency or functionality, that's kind of engineering. I mean, that's just my personal definition. But that is what people are afraid of. And so they separated, call it, you know, the shop class got separated from math and physics because they don't understand the word engineering. And once they put that word back with a better understanding of what it is, I think that people will enjoy the most important part about shop class, which is creativity. It's not just playing with tools and fixing brake pads.
Yeah.
So I would say the future is entrepreneurship, manufacturing, and creativity.
So for our audience that's out there, Stephen, and you see it in the field all the time, we're all hurting for trades. We're all hurting for a good, you know, carpenter, electrician, plumber, MEP, mechanical person, whatever the case is. But here we are. There's a network of teachers like yourselves. You started the Shop Class podcast where you're getting the other shop classes involved. I mean, I just see the three of you and those that aren't on here with us as a huge opportunity to connect with our audience that is in such dire need for young, smart minds, and for them to land in a good place that can get them a really good income with great companies and great people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know personally when you think about the shop class, or I'm gonna call it tech class because that would air it. I think it elevates it a little, right?
Yeah.
But why is it some of these schools can't, like, you know, for the kids that say are choosing a path down college or they want to become a doctor, then yeah, okay, maybe they take calculus. But why don't some of these schools have classes like business math, right? So the guy that's taken the welding course or the automotive course can also take business math and understand how to reconcile a checkbook and how to run it, just the basics of a business. That so when you walk out of there and you talk about entrepreneurship, Ron, that yeah, okay, they're not Warren Buffett when they're graduating, but they have a basic understanding of, hey, if I want to start a business, it means that I have to work so many hours, charge so many dollars to make so much money to cover these bills, and what's left over is what I make, kind of thing, right? But to understand that business math, why aren't our schools kind of capturing this effort of all these kids that don't necessarily want to go down a different route? And some of those are just basic life skills of, you know, balancing a checkbook. Running a business is, if you never start a business, then it's like running your home, right? I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I just call it the application. So sure, you can memorize a bunch of stuff in the other classes, but until you apply it, you haven't really done anything. So I agree. You know, that's where the shop class has an advantage. Luckily, you know, a lot of the shop classes have a curriculum that's flexible. So it depends on how, you know, the equipment you have. It depends on, it's a very creative position. If anybody's even thinking about jumping into becoming a shop teacher, because that's also, by the way, the shortage. It's not just that we have a shortage in building a trade. We have a shortage of teachers. In fact, Matt is training a teacher right now because they just can't find anybody.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, throw it back to me. I'm actually a product designer that then said, I don't want to be in the office. And what happened was I found out that there's this position where you get to build cars or products or whatever. And as long as you bring teenagers with you, they call it shop teacher. And I was like, you're joking. That's a job? And I said, you know, and growing up, I hated teachers. You know, I was the kid in the back of the class drawing little pictures of cars. And the teacher would come back and say, oh, you know, you're not doing your work, da da da. And the irony is now I'm the teacher and we are drawing cars and building them. That is, I flipped the script completely, you know, and that's something you can do as a shop teacher. So when I got the job or the interview, they opened the doors of the shop and it was like, oh, and all this equipment was there.
I almost want you to do that again just so I can hear it again.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it.
You know, and it's
I
like,
feel like I'm in church on Friday morning or something.
Yeah.
So funny. So I saw all the equipment, and the old supervisor, he's, you know, this guy's been there like 35 years. So he's like, anyway, listen, you got to do this. And okay, over here, you know, we're in Jersey, and he's been there forever. So I said, wait. Can I use this equipment to make stuff? And the guy's like, Yeah, what are you talking about? Of course. Yeah, anyway, so look, they're going to sit over here and blah, blah, blah. I was like, amazed. I wasn't even listening to anything else he said. I was like, wait, so we can build stuff? You just got to bring your class along and teach them basics and then get them to an advanced level. This is amazing. You know, so anybody who's thinking about jumping in this, become a shop teacher, please do, and we will support you. It's not easy to go into that transition, but that's a need. There's not enough of them.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what's interesting, gentlemen? Like Dave said, Dave and I were just in Switzerland, and one of my biggest takeaways from that country was everybody that I saw working there all seemed to have an attitude. It's a culture of like this collective effort to contribute, right? Like nobody looked down at the guy that was cleaning the landscaping and stuff in front of the hotel. That was his job, to make the streets nice for everybody. And he was proud about the job that he was doing and all of that. And it didn't matter where you went. When you go to restaurants, you don't tip in Switzerland because they get paid a real wage. And so you don't have to tip there because they're contributing. That's their job. If you want to go out, be entertained, and have a great meal, then you go out and they do that. And it's, you know, the shop class, I mean, maybe it's changed. I certainly don't have the connection that you guys do, but when I was in high school in the 80s, it was like, yeah, I mean, most of my friends were in shop class and stuff, but they, you know, they were frowned upon by all the others. Right. And that, you know, oh, you're in shop class, and yeah. But I don't think it should be that way. I mean, hell, I know some plumbers that have profitable business now that are doing better than a lot of architecture offices I know of.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So it's not about what you do, it's how you do it. And
yeah. Well, it's a cultural thing, isn't it, Stephen? Like when you, like you said, over there, it was a culture, and they know from a young age that to become a carpenter, they have to go through a master apprentice program. So there's a lot of respect for carpenters, because just like somebody else would go off to college for 4 years, you know, these young people are going to learn an apprentice program, and it's a very strict and stringent, and to get your master's takes a lot of work, and it's known that it takes a lot of work. So that's kind of where the respect level comes for the trades. And become a master trade in any country, it takes years of experience and years of training and working with some of the greatest minds that are out there, and then developing some of your own techniques as well. Duke, you're awfully quiet down there, so I'm moving you to the top of the charts here. We got some things to cover other than our arm wrestling match.
I got a good story that maybe Duke would want to tell. In that the shop teachers, now that we're reaching out to tradespeople and entrepreneurs through the Shop Class podcast, Duke reached out to find a better way to teach robotics, and he actually found an entrepreneur from Australia. The kid's 16 years old, and he made a legitimate business that he could sell parts and pieces of robots to Duke's program. And that's part of the reason we're connecting, is that as shop teachers, we're trying to connect the entrepreneurs and trying to connect the tradespeople to the shop class. And so, Duke, you want to tell us how you got in touch with them and maybe a follow-up on what's going on with the robots?
Yeah, sure. And I'm talking about some of the woodshop projects that we were talking about before. We still do like the traditional woodshop projects, but instead of following like a stringent set of plans, now the student is more involved in the design process. And then maybe instead of just using one type of material, use a variety of the material, incorporate the 3D printer. About Jaden, he's from Australia. So we have a robotics program, and the students build a robot, and they'll use the robot to solve, made up real world problems, dispose of hazardous waste into a receptacle. But what I've noticed is these students, once they get the robot built right away, what do they want to do? Battle bots, right? So I started going online looking for battle bots and kits that middle school students could handle. Now there's larger ones, where they're bending sheet metal and stuff like that. And I don't really want to put tin snips in a sixth grader's hand. So I contacted a student from a 16-year-old, and just random. He was a 16-year-old from Australia, and he started his own BattleBot business where they use the smaller battle bots, but the shells are 3D printed and the components are soldered, but the components are easy enough to solder for a middle school student. So Ron's talking about the entrepreneurship. There's a high school student from Australia, of all places, but making connections. We have 3D printers, and instead of just 3D printing a part, they're actually using the robot to 3D print a practical robot.
So let me ask all three. This is a question for all three. And Matt, you've been awfully quiet, so you can chime in on this as well. This is going back to what my buddy over here, Stephen Basic, just said. Teaching the young folks how to be tradespeople is one thing. Teaching them to be an entrepreneur is a whole nother level. Do you teach them the actual business side of running a business, or do they just learn the skills in school? Do they learn how to manage money? Do they learn how to forecast? Do they learn how to not rob Peter to pay Paul, right? The dreaded robbing Peter to pay Paul that we hear about in our industry that catches up to you as soon as the recession hits and your ass is in the grinder with your phone's ringing off the hook with collection calls. So walk us through. What do you teach outside of just the shop class? Do you teach actual business skills?
I can answer my part real fast on that one.
Right.
So that is something I definitely wanted to get more into, formerly having a business and, working through the recession and, going through those issues and battling this and that. And, everything comes with a business, right? So we haven't got into it deep yet. Because for me, obviously we're so tied to working on the house, it becomes a supplemental thing. But this semester we started using a smart sheet for project planning. I'm learning the program. I'm learning the software and stuff together with the kids, introducing them to Gantt charts and scheduling and things like that. So we're just getting into that side of like the business management side. In fact, being a teacher and having your master's, you get pay scale. So I got my master's in construction management, not to go into become a construction manager per se, but to use the master's to benefit me, on the pay scale side, but also to develop those skills more for the students and stuff. So pretty much I am trying to break down what my master's course was down to high school entry level course or curriculum and introduce it to them. So it's something I'm sprinkling in this semester and hope to start rolling out more all year next year to start developing those business skills. And one of the business skills I want to have the kids do is actually call the lumber yard and make the lumber order. Like, how many kids don't know really how to really properly talk on the telephone?
And take the order, right? And take the order and then solve any problems that are associated with a problematic order. Like, hey, we're supposed to have, 58 of these studs and there's, 42 of them here. Why don't we have these? Or this is the wrong size or all of that, because that is what we deal with every day.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them don't want to talk because they're nervous. They don't want to sound dumb. It's like, it's okay. Like, on my end, I'll call the lumberyard and say, hey.
Yeah, no one's comparing you to Bill Gates. You're a 17-year-old high schooler learning. You're not, Warren Buffett, So we're not expecting you to have a perfect business sense.
Yeah, this is practice.
Exactly. Yeah. And the beauty of it is too, I guess, for them to understand is currently there's no consequence to a failure, right? Where that's what we're trying to get you to be disciplined about, is to develop a pattern so that when you do go out there and there are consequences attached to decisions, that you're now making the right decisions.
Ooh, I like this idea, Steve. We could start this in the schools, right? Where we have a mock program where you got to build a shed, but you have to order all the product. You got to count your man labor, your hours, every nail, every piece, and then figure out how you made a profit or how much money you lost.
Yeah,
it's such a valuable lesson,
right? If you estimate that it takes 2 weeks to frame this shed, at the end of 2 weeks, where are you? You need to assess your situation and say, man, I would have lost my shirt, or wow, we finished it in a week. I could have took a week vacation on that money.
That's right.
Maybe Ron may say this, but Barbercheck, he started a whole e-commerce program in his shop class. He wasn't able to jump on here today, but one of the podcast shop class originators, Matthew Barbercheck up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, has a whole e-commerce system when it comes to like the kids, like, don't they like buy their material from the shelf and then somehow they can make money? It's pretty impressive.
I was able to, you can purchase the items they make. So I was able to get, he shipped me something, so you choose from the menu, and it's kind of cool because it's student built. Something to answer that question as far as like, what are the other skills we're teaching? It's funny. It actually comes down to, and let me just say, when you're talking about measuring the materials and your time, and then seeing if you can make an improvement, to me, that's engineering. That's it right there. The creativity of being like, maybe if we use a different machine, it might cost more for that machine, but we could get more done in a shorter amount of time, so you balance these things out, you run experiments, but you write all the numbers down. So one of the other things that I talk to the students about is documenting their work. So for instance, instead of just trying to get, I just grade them, to me, I don't really even care about grades. But what I do is I grade them on their accomplishment of before and after. So I say, hey, take a picture at the beginning, take a picture in the middle and the end. I want to see the process. I want to see you type something up, and then we publish it. And so now they're building a portfolio. They're doing it for the grade, but they don't know they're actually doing it for themselves. My whole point is to give them independence. I just want them to be great. And they don't realize it at first because they think, I can't believe I got to take a picture of this. I got to write it down. So annoying, Mr. G, So, but some of the stuff that happens is that once it's published, I have them do a LinkedIn account. If they want to do an Instagram, they can. What happens is I get calls from people around the neighborhood and say, hey, do you have any people that you think would be good starting out at this bike shop or starting out at this print shop? Believe it or not, they have a print shop around here. And so I say, yeah. And I go, click send. It's done. Their whole portfolio goes right to that person, and they can make a call if they want to connect. And I say, hey, you're on your own, man. You're connected now. That's it. And so that's the thing I add to these classes, because that developed because when they graduate, they disappear. And it's like, wait a minute, we have a whole job network. And so if they just disappear, then there's no way to help them. Right. The other part is that I feel bad for the students that walk into the minimum wage job without an understanding of what's going on. So they walk in and they say, oh, I need this job. So they say, I work at Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, whatever. And I say, okay, that's great, start, but you don't have to be there because you have skills. So you could go, unless you want to own the restaurant and be in the restaurant industry, that's perfectly fine. You get training there because that's a huge corporation. Mm-hmm. But if you wanted to do something else, you got to work at a bike shop if you want to be a mechanic so you can build your way up. And they don't realize this. They think that they just have to get a job because they get a job at the lowest possible thing because they're afraid to ask. They're afraid to ask. They say, oh, but no one will hire me. Well, no one's going to hire you if you don't ask. So bridging the gap to independence, self-reliance, and their portfolio, I would say that's something that is important.
Yeah, very much so.
I think it's important that, and I'm sure you guys probably stress it to them, but students have to realize that life is an evolution. You don't graduate high school and go into the job that you're going to do for the next 60 years, right? That you could do a whole bunch of things. You can go work at a bike shop, and then you can do some night courses in something, and then get a job as something else, and then eventually end up as an engineer somewhere doing something, right? It doesn't have to be this step to that step. There's an evolution there that, right. As far as the beauty of America is, as far as you want to take it, America's willing to, give it to you.
Yeah, and that's that's the whole basis of my class, exposure. I call it throwing sparks. We have kids using hand tools, using machines, CNC routers, lathes, 3D printers, robots, drones. Now, every kid's not going to, become a drone pilot, but if you get one or two of them to show interest in each one of these aspects, you may change a kid's life, or just have them experience something different that they don't see in their everyday classes.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and I think that with it, Ron, this is the last question, and we're going to wrap it up here. But before everybody does go, next week's a fun week. We got some fun stuff. We got Paolo coming on, who is one of the owners and founders of Boxable. If you don't know what Boxable is, you need to check it out. It is the only unfolding house in America. So he will be on the show. And then Wednesday, now that they're up and running, because we already went live from their factory, we're going to be live in their factory again this Wednesday in Las Vegas, showcasing the factory that is putting product out the door. I think I heard somewhere that their evaluation has hit in the 1B mark somewhere. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think I read that somewhere. So join us Monday for that. All right, here's my last question. For all of our listeners out there, right? All the investment bankers looking to invest in this industry, the suppliers that are looking to get into the offsite market, industry or what have you, all of our energy efficiency and passive house friends and the suppliers of those industries, and then all of the builders and developers that tune in on a regular basis. The value that you and your students can deliver to them is what I'd like to hear from each one of you. Duke, you can go last to wrap that up. Ron, you go first. Each of you have got 2 minutes. How can we help you, and how can your students help us?
So, it depends where you are in a program. When I first got here, we needed money. We needed machines. We didn't have milling machines. We didn't have new lathes. We have these old lathes. Luckily, the old shop teacher kept them. We had some sheet metal equipment, but we needed money because we bought welders and we bought some project cars and whatnot. Now at this point, we probably need training sessions. We'd love to learn CNC. Maybe another teacher. Expand the program, because if you're not growing, you're dying. And then, I would say connection to like presentations. If you have a machine shop, open it up to the local shop class. If you have a skill you want to share, reach out to the local shop teacher, or jump on the Shop Class podcast, and we will interview you. Share your knowledge and pathway into the industry so that these shop teachers are more powerful and can help their kids.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
I can second right behind Ron. I'm going to say, for me, I'm in a very good situation where what Ron was talking about, I'm in the middle of experiencing. I'm very fortunate to have, work with Steve Basic on some things, and other people in the industry that have been very influential, not just on social media, but, in the industry themselves. So we're getting training on the job site with companies. Rockwell was here. Mark Wille and Bob Kelly were here. We were on last week with the kids doing some on-site training. That makes a world of difference for teachers, man, where we can, it's like back in the day when teacher pops in a movie, right? I just stand back and watch. It's great. And the kids are getting, you're getting training from the best, because these are the people's products, right? They know it the best. So getting on there, showing up to the job site or the shop class, wherever the class is being held, get your product in the kids' hands. And then one thing I've probably benefited from the most, I've said it multiple times, is, the fact, being on this show now 3 times, the networking, getting connected with you guys, like getting connected with Steve Basic, Jake Bruton, getting to talk with Mike Gurton. I could name drop forever, and that's amazing. Like Steve and Jake were very influential in getting me connected in their network at the very beginning of me starting this program. And, in just a matter of a couple of years, I have a network that is very impressive and I'm in awe of, and even get to the point now where some of these guys are becoming friends even, and that's huge, being able to connect with people like this. It's, if a shop teacher can make a phone call, and that's the thing, the connection is fun for me, but it's going to benefit my students. I tell my students all the time, I could make a phone call. I can send a DM on Instagram, just about anywhere in the country now, and we'll probably be able at least to get you the interview. So building that network, bringing us into your guys' network, I think that's probably been the biggest thing that's helped me in my program. And in just a matter of a couple of years, elevated us very quickly. That's huge.
Awesome. How about yourself, Duke?
Yeah, same thing, just making connections. Drive around the schools, drive all the ways around the schools, and maybe somewhere in the back, you're going to see a metal can. That's where the dust collector is. That's where the wood shop is. Make connections, contact the school. A lot of the school districts now are talking about making their students career ready. So making them ready when they go to a career, maybe speak on career day. And then, those students in that class will say, hey, I saw that person speak at my school. I'm going to check out his job. That's the teacher that had their, robotic lawnmower. I'm going to go check out his business when I graduate high school, or maybe look for a summer job. So it's just making connections. Same thing we're doing right here. We're making connections as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine, Ron, having the Shop Class podcast, say that 5 times. I like it. Shop Class podcast. But you become a connector, right? In your own space and having that connection point. So people from all over the country, around the world that are looking for young, great minds or looking to tap into them before they graduate, whether they're in 10th grade, 11th grade, right? So they know there's opportunities for these growing companies coming out. I think is really powerful, and I commend you. I think it's awesome that you started that whole podcast. So well done.
Yeah. Can I just plug the YouTube channel, because Wednesday we just interviewed Jimmy DiResta, and I actually set it up for the most popular, but we got Brant Taylor, the tool hacker. He was amazing. He was that's one of the most inspiring videos we have. Next is in Hawaii. He's a painter, and he's a paint representative. Kugel Works. This is so awesome. What he does is he makes custom handmade parts for vintage BMWs, and he's like, his whole business is Shop Class. And then we had a NASA engineer where Erica Alvarez. She actually went to this school, and before I started teaching here. And one of her teachers influenced her to learn about, believe it or not, they worked with paper airplanes and they work with model rocketry. And now believe it or not, she's a coordinator for the new mission back to the moon. I don't know if everybody knows, but we're going back to the moon, but permanently with a base. So that's a lot of preparation to get ready for. So the Shop Class podcast is diverse. And the whole idea is to inspire and connect shop teachers, build relationships with shop teachers, so you can make that phone call. And if you needed something for your classroom, you could say, hey, what would you do here? And then they might give you some advice, or maybe they could help you out in some way. So that's what I would say about shop teachers need to connect for sure and build relationships with the industry, and that would help the students for sure. Oh, are you there?
Lost you, Dave.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to cough. I said, Stephen, today you're going to have to take us out, right? What did you learn? What are the opportunities that you saw? So take us out.